Waiting for Russia to invade Ukraine feels a bit like waiting for Godot. In this edgy reworking of Samuel Beckett's masterpiece, Russia's leader, Vladimir Putin, is cast, appropriately, as the restless Vladimir, while the US President, Joe Biden, is the bowler-hatted Estragon, frequently dozing off. The play's central conceit is that the mysterious Godot, expected at any moment, never actually arrives. After Russia agreed last week to keep talking, Ukraine's citizens have reason to hope the crisis will turn out to be a comparably vacuous non-event, a peculiarly Putin-esque contribution to the theater of the absurd. The border standoff, which commenced in earnest in November, has lasted so long that the tea-leaf reading Biden reckons Russia has to do something. This penetrating mystic mega-analysis is not necessarily correct. No one, perhaps not even Putin, knows whether something will happen today, next month, or never. Continuing the existentialist theme, even the definition of invasion is endlessly debated. Biden anticipates a D-Day scale Russian operation. But many analysts expect any attack to be fast, covert and asymmetrical, using special forces, sabotage and cyber warfare, as in the Donbas in 2014. While this slightly surreal waiting game continues, it's possible and instructive to assess what damage has already been done, and which individuals and countries are winning or losing so far in Ukraine's phony war. For example, Annalena Baerbock, Germany's brand new foreign minister and co-leader of the Greens, has had a good war to date. Ignoring chauvinist sneers about her inexperience and gender, she faced down Sergei Lavrov, her grisly Russian counterpart, when they met recently in Moscow. In contrast, her boss, Germany's Chancellor Olaf Scholz, is having a miserable time of it. His prevarication over what anti-Russia sanctions Berlin may support, and his blocking of arms supplies to Ukraine, has raised wider questions about his competence and about German leadership in Europe. Having long resisted American pressure to scrap the newly completed Nord Stream 2 gas Baltic pipeline from Russia, Scholz last week appeared to cave. It's been an unlucky beginning for Angela Merkel's less popular successor. France's Emmanuel Macron, facing a spring presidential election, is struggling to reconcile his vision of European strategic autonomy with the reality of continuing dependence on NATO, amid offstage jeering from Britain's Boris Johnson. "We will never give up dialogue with Moscow," Macron declares. But his bridge building is repeatedly undermined by Putin's recidivism, symbolized by the 2020 poisoning of opposition leader Alexei Navalny. Undeterred, Macron continues to pursue de-escalation and a European solution. Ukraine has become the focus of geopolitical attention in recent weeks, as a Russian troop buildup along its eastern border, and a list of demands from the Kremlin have prompted threats of sanctions by the West and military deployment by NATO allies. Most recently, the US has formally responded to the Kremlin's security demands, as attempts to defuse the crisis diplomatically continue. Why is Ukraine important to Russia? Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union before it collapsed at the end of the Cold War in 1991, and it borders Russia to its east. The disintegration of the Soviet Union left Russia with a vastly depleted population, territory, and economy. It also diminished Russia's superpower status. Now Russian President Vladimir Putin is seeking to reclaim some of that glory and undo some of what Russia lost in the Cold War. He has described Russians and Ukrainians as one people, a single whole. Does Russia want to invade Ukraine? Russia has repeatedly denied having plans to invade. But Moscow has massed 100,000 troops near the Ukrainian border and has been moving tanks, infantry fighting vehicles, rocket launchers and other military equipment westward from bases in Russia's Far East. In addition, Russia is moving troops and S-400 surface-to-air missile systems into Belarus, which borders Ukraine and NATO members Poland, Latvia and Lithuania. Russia also has moved several ships near Ukraine's shores in the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov. It is also holding naval exercises in the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans and in the Arabian Sea with Chinese naval forces. On January 25, Moscow announced new military exercises in the North Caucasus. In late January, Western defense officials said Russia had sent medical units to the front, moving to a level of readiness that it hadn't reached in past buildups. In massing troops near Ukraine, Mr. Putin's goal is to extract concessions from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and force him to give Russia a say in Ukraine's future. That would send a message to other former Soviet states that the West can't guarantee their security. To ratchet up the pressure, Mr. Putin has an array of military options short of a full occupation, from low-profile incursions to a limited conflict in the eastern Donbas region, where Russian-backed separatists have declared themselves independent of Ukraine, but aren't recognized by the government in Kiev. President Biden has said that he expects the Russians will move against Ukraine in some way, although Washington and Moscow have agreed to continue talks on how to defuse the crisis. Where is Ukraine? Ukraine is located in Eastern Europe and its eastern flank borders Russia. To the west, it is bordered by Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, Romania and Moldova, and to the north by Belarus. The Black Sea runs along Ukraine's southern coast. Ukraine, country located in Eastern Europe, the second largest on the continent after Russia. The capital is Kiev, located on the Dnieper River in north-central Ukraine. A fully independent
launch a full-scale invasion of the entire country. America's top general says Russia has not mobilized troops on this scale and magnitude since the Cold War.
The Russian Federation has amassed upwards at this time.
USSR. Ukraine had experienced a brief period of independence in 1918-20, but portions of western Ukraine were ruled by Poland, Romania, and Czechoslovakia in the period between the two world wars, and Ukraine thereafter became part of the Soviet Union as the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic, SSR. When the Soviet Union began to unravel in 1990 to 1991, the legislature of the Ukrainian SSR declared sovereignty, July 16, 1990, and then outright independence, August 24, 1991, a move that was confirmed by popular approval in a plebiscite, December 1, 1991. With the dissolution of the USSR in December 1991, Ukraine gained full independence. The country changed its official name to Ukraine, and it helped to found the Commonwealth.
Shows us Russia in the east, and light blue-coloured countries are all NATO members. Some of them are former members of the Soviet Union, something Putin says is a broken promise.
We won't move 1 inch towards the east, they told us.
Slovakia and Poland to the west. In the far southeast, Ukraine is separated from Russia by the Kerch Strait, which connects the Sea of Azov to the Black Sea. Ukraine occupies the southwestern portion of the Russian Plain, East European Plain. The country consists almost entirely of level plains at an average elevation of 574 feet, 175 meters, above sea level. Mountainous areas such as the Ukrainian Carpathians and Crimean Mountains occur only on the country's borders and account for barely 5% of its area. The Ukrainian landscape nevertheless has some diversity. Its plains are broken by highlands, running in a continuous belt from northwest to southeast, as well as by lowlands. The rolling plain of the Dnieper upland, which lies between the middle reaches of the Dnipro and southern Buh, or the Bo, rivers in west-central Ukraine, is the largest highland area. It is dissected by many river valleys, ravines, and gorges, some more than 1,000 feet, 300 meters, deep. On the west, the Dnieper upland is abutted by the rugged Volyn-Podilsk upland, which rises to 1,545 feet, 471 meters, at its highest point, Mount Kamula. West of the Volyn-Podilsk upland, in extreme western Ukraine, the parallel ranges of the Carpathian Mountains, one of the most picturesque areas in the country, extend for more than 150 miles, 240 km. The mountains range in height from about 2,000 feet, 600 meters, to about 6,500 feet, 2,000 meters, rising to 6,762 feet, 2,061 meters, at 6,762 feet, 2,061 meters, at Mount Hoverla, the highest point in the country. The northeastern and southeastern portions of Ukraine are occupied by low uplands, rarely reaching an elevation of 1,000 feet, 300 meters. Among the country's lowlands are the Propent Marshes Polissaya, which lie in the northern part of Ukraine and are crossed by numerous river valleys. In east-central Ukraine is the Dnieper lowland, which is flat in the west and gently rolling in the east. To the south, another lowland extends along the shores of the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov. Its level surface, broken only by low rises and shallow depressions, slopes gradually toward the Black Sea. The shores of the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov are characterized by narrow, sandy spits of land that jut out into the water. One of these, the Arabit Spit, is about 70 miles, 113 km, long but averages
To
less
launch
than
a
5
full-scale
miles, 8
invasion of the
km
entire
in width.
country.
The southern
America's
lowland
top general
continues in the
says Russia has not
Crimean Peninsula.
mobilized troops on this scale and magnitude
Continues in the
since the
Crimean
Cold
Peninsula is the
War.
North Crimean
The
lowlands.
Russian Federation
The peninsula,
has amassed
a large
upwards
protrusion into the
at
Black
this
Sea,
time.
is connected to the mainland by the Paracop Isthmus. The Crimean Mountains form the southern coast of the peninsula. Mount Roman Kosh, at 5,069 feet, 1,545 meters, is the mountain's highest point. Almost all the major rivers in Ukraine flow northwest to southeast through the plains to empty into the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov. The Dnieper River, with its hydroelectric dams, huge reservoirs, and many tributaries, dominates the entire central part of Ukraine. Of the total course of the Dnieper, 609 miles, 980 km, are in Ukraine, making it by far the longest river in the country, of which it drains more than half. Like the Dnieper, the southern Buhr, with its major tributary, the Inhul, flows into the Black Sea. To the west and southwest, partly draining Ukrainian territory, the Dniestr also flows into the Black Sea. Tributaries, the largest in Ukraine are the Stryai and the Zbrach. The middle course of the Donets River, a tributary of the Don, flows through southeastern Ukraine and is an important source of water for the Donets Basin, Donbas. The Danube River flows along the southwestern frontier of Ukraine. Marshland, covering almost 3% of Ukraine, is found primarily in the northern river valleys and in the lower reaches of the Dnieper, Danube, and other rivers. The rivers are most important as a water supply, and for this purpose a series of canals has been built, such as the Donets Basin, the Dnieper Kryvyi Rih, and the North Crimea. Several of the larger rivers are navigable, including the Dnieper, Danube, Dniester, Pripyat, Donets, and southern Buh, in its lower course. Dams and hydroelectric plants are situated on all the larger rivers. Ukraine has a few natural lakes, all of them small and most of them scattered over the river floodplains. One of the largest is Lake Svitayaz, 11 square miles, 28 square kilometer in area, in the northwest. Small saltwater lakes occur in the Black Sea lowland and in Crimea. Larger saline lakes occur along the coast. Known as limans, these bodies of water form at the mouths of rivers or ephemeral streams, and are blocked off by sandbars from the sea. Some artificial lakes have been formed, the largest of which are reservoirs at hydroelectric dams, e.g., the reservoir on the Dnieper upstream from Kremenchuk. The Kakhovka, Dnieper, Dniprodzerzhinsk, Kanov, and Kiev reservoirs make up the rest of the Dnieper Cascade. Smaller reservoirs are located on the Dniester and southern Buh rivers, and on tributaries of the Donets River. Small reservoirs for water supply also are found near Kryvyi Rih, Kharkiv, and other industrial cities. 3 large artesian basins, the Volyn Podilsk, the Dnieper, and the Black Sea, are exceptionally important for municipal needs and agriculture as well. In area, in the northwest. Small saltwater lakes occur in the Black Sea lowland and in Crimea. Larger saline lakes occur along the coast. Known as limans, these bodies of water form at the mouths of rivers or ephemeral streams, and are blocked off by sandbars from the sea. Some artificial lakes have been formed, the largest of which are reservoirs at hydroelectric dams, e.g., the reservoir on the Dnieper upstream from Kremenchuk. The Kakhovka, Dnieper, Dniprodzerzhinsk, Kanov, and Kiev reservoirs make up the rest of the Dnieper Cascade. Smaller reservoirs are located on the Dniester and southern Buh rivers, and on tributaries of the Donets River. Small reservoirs for water supply also are found near Kryvyi Rih, Kharkiv, and other industrial cities. 3 large artesian basins, the Volyn Podilsk, the Dnieper, and the Black Sea, are exceptionally important for municipal needs and agriculture as well.